At Starbound, we tell stories the human way, not with artificial voices or AI slop. In the end, what's HFY without humanity? Subscribe to keep it this way. My name's GeneralG. Let's begin. The attendant automation malfunctioned. Its diplomatic-grade chassis stuttered, joints locking and releasing in short, sharp jolts. It guided Tammy Park through a corridor so vast that faint clouds condensed near the ceiling. Gilded buttresses climbed into a high, dark void where holographic constellations, all conquered systems, glittered with a proprietary glare. "The Grand Artificer is occupied," the automation chirped, its vocalizer skipping. "A momentous occasion, a galactic broadcast. Perhaps you could reschedule the mandatory compliance audit to a less momentous time?" Tammy shifted her grip on her hardened compliance table, holding the heavy slab of ceramic and circuitry like a shield. "The audit window for a newly manifested Class 8 stellar implement is 3 ship days post-activation," she said. "We're in the 3rd ship day's final hour. Rescheduling exceeds my authorization. IBCI Warranty Codex Article 43 Subsection Gamma." The automation's optical sensor cycled. "Of course, Article 43 Gamma, a classic." They reached towering doors of polished, dark metal that slid open. The chamber beyond was part war room, part cathedral. A throng of beings, a garish mix of galactic conquerors, sycophants, and arms dealers, stood still on a raised observation deck. Below them, a command pit thrummed, its energy contained by shimmering fields. At its center, Grand Artificer Gelmar sat on a throne of polished asteroid iron. An 8-foot-tall Helion, Gelmar was oversized and violent. Corded muscle shifted under thick, ochre hide. A thick dewlap of interlocking osseous plates protected his throat. Before him, a holoscreen dominated the view, displaying a world swirled with blue oceans and green landmasses, its clouds spinning. A Helion guard in dull, blast-scored plating blocked Tammy's path. She held up her tablet. The screen showed the Interstellar Bureau of Catastrophic Implements' official crest, a planet cracking like an egg, stamped with a heavy warranty seal. The guard's jaw tightened before he stepped inside. Gelmar's bass rumble vibrated through the deck plating. He was in the middle of a speech, a monologue broadcasting to every corner of the Circinus sector. "And so, the era of orbital bombardments and ground invasions is over," he boomed, gesturing to the weapon array framing the command pit. A network of emitters and projectors, sprawling across the forward bulkhead, framed the pit. "Behold, the Oblivion Harp. This ends planetary resistance. With a single focused pulse, the harp will shatter planetary crusts, render histories into footnotes, and silence the dissent of trillions." He grinned, showing sharp teeth, and let the quiet stretch. His long black talon hovered over a large glowing red stud on his armrest. The court held its collective breath. Trillions watched. Tammy raised her hand. The room's stillness broke. A few sycophants muttered. Gelmar swiveled, fixing her with a stare that felt iron-hot. His grin tightened. "Who," he growled, his voice a threatening sub-vocal rumble, "dares?" Tammy stepped forward, her regulation boots gliding over the polished deck. "Tammy Park, Interstellar Bureau of Catastrophic Implements, Field Compliance Division. I'm here to conduct the final certification audit for the device designated the Oblivion Harp." Gelmar drew himself up, muscles bunching under his hide. "You interrupt the Grand Artificer Gelmar at his magnum opus's moment? Your audit can wait." "I'm afraid it can't." Tammy tapped commands into her tablet. A red flag icon appeared on its screen. "A preliminary scan from my shuttle flagged a critical compliance failure. This failure warrants an immediate operational stand-down under Article 117, Subsection B." The Grand Artificer's dewlap inflated, its osseous plates separating and rasping against each other like a rock slide. Failure? Unthinkable. The harp is perfection manifest. My audit will determine that, Tammy said, meeting his stare. But before we proceed, I have a preliminary question that might clear this up. She paused. The entire bridge, the entire galactic broadcast, waited. Grand Artificer, before you pop that planet, I need to ask, for the B-9 safety and collateral indemnity bond, did you keep the receipt? Only Gelmar's rasping dewlap broke the silence. She continued. Or, failing that, the original proof of purchase for the primary graviton tuner? My scans show the bond has lapsed. The bond's lapse voids the harp's operational insurance. Per IBCI treaty, its firmware now locks into diagnostic mode. Any attempt to override that lock will automatically broadcast a rogue asset beacon, voiding this vessel's IFF tags across all certified networks. The Celestial Theorem would become the largest, most conveniently located bounty in galactic history. A slender being near the throne clicked, a soft, rhythmic sound. Adjunct Sarn, Gelmar's Isocian quartermaster, stepped forward. His articulating polyhedral body reoriented itself. He turned his head, a smooth ovoid of polished graphite, towards Gelmar. The auditor is correct, Grand Artificer, Sarn's synthesized monotone announced. The claim is valid under established statutes. My department flagged the bond payment last week. You classified the alert as bothersome housekeeping. Gelmar's dewlap deflated with a hiss. The broadcast was dead air. The invasion was on hold. The apocalypse was subject to the same paperwork as a household appliance. The throne room was smaller than the bridge. Gelmar's grinding dewlap plates vibrated in Tammy's bones. Gelmar slumped in his throne, the corner of his mouth turned down. At his side stood Provost Haxon. The Provost, a Carthan, had a body of segmented limbs with black matte surfaces that seemed to erase reflections. He shifted his weight, his elongated head with its two amber optical sensors, tracking Tammy as she stood before the dais. Adjunct Sarn was off to one side, holding a data terminal, his posture steady. "This is an outrage," Gelmar bellowed. "A humiliation. The Grand Artificer Gelmar thwarted by, a receipt goblin?" "I'm a junior warranty engineer, sir," Tammy corrected, holding up her compliance tablet. "And the lapsed bond is only the first violation. My preliminary scan uncovered several others." She listed them. Item 1. 19 counterfeit power conduits in the primary amplification array. They deviate from the manufacturer's specified thermal tolerance. Item 2. The primary focusing lens assembly mismatches the part numbers on the manifest. Item 3. You omitted Form 818-C, cross-classifying the device's gravitic output under the Interstellar Arts and Culture mandate. Gelmar waved a talon. "Clerical minutia, trifling details." "Grand Artificer," Sarn's monotone cut in. He gestured with a polyhedral limb toward his terminal. "The counterfeit parts are a significant operational risk. My department flagged this issue 3 shifts ago. At full power, emitter desynchronization is likely. The resulting feedback loop would tear this vessel apart. You filed my report under fear-mongering for increased budgets." Gelmar's jaw tightened. He held his tongue. Provost Haxon stepped forward. His voice was smooth. "Grand Artificer, if I may, a weapon of this quality is unlikely to have so many deficiencies. Perhaps the auditor's equipment malfunctions, or perhaps—" He paused. "She deliberately falsified her report. A ploy by your rivals to sabotage this glorious campaign." Tammy stiffened. "I calibrate my equipment weekly. IBCI standards are absolute." Haxon turned his amber sensors toward her. "Of course, but the Codex, in its wisdom, provides a remedy for such disputes, yes? For situations where a sovereign-class client believes an auditor acts in bad faith." He turned to Gelmar, tilting his head. "Codex Article 4, Section 12b, Gladiatorial Arbitration." A grin spread across Gelmar's face. Ah, yes, arbitration. An excellent suggestion, Provost. He leaned forward and fixed his gaze on Tammy. You have challenged my harp's integrity. My Provost now challenges your audit's integrity. You will resolve this in the Arbiter's Circle. My champion against you. This was a formality before an execution. A frantic pulse beat against her ribs. She searched the codex for loopholes and subclauses, finding only dead ends. A sovereign-class client would invoke Article 4-12b. Refusing would forfeit the audit, her career, and possibly her life. She drew a steady breath, clutching her tablet so hard the edges dug into her palm. This was the job. Apocalypse assured. I accept the terms, she said, her voice steady. Faint, low clicks emitted from Adjunct Sarn's frame as his polyhedrons reconfigured, a subtle shift in his otherwise static form. She recognized the sound, a system encountering a chaotic variable. Tammy's opulent guest quarters were decorated in the Helian style of conquest chic. Plundered artifacts on shelves next to jagged, imposing furniture. A protocol droid delivered a bowl of steaming, fibrous tubers, a standard meal for off-duty soldiers. Once the door closed, a violent tremor shook her hands. She set her tablet on a table of polished, dark-veined stone and stared at her shaking fingers. Her certification covered indemnity bonds and thermal tolerances. Death matches were outside her expertise. She was an engineer facing an executioner, armed with a user manual. She picked up the tablet. Its familiar weight was a comfort. She opened the codex. The dense, orderly text was a lifeline. She focused on the rhythm, the logic, the article's unyielding structure. The shaking in her hands subsided. A soft chime announced a visitor. Tammy straightened her uniform, smoothed her hair, and set her expression to neutral before opening the door. Adjunct Sarn stood in the corridor. Auditor Park, he said in his synthesized monotone. I am here to fulfill the pre-arbitration disclosure requirements under Article 4-12d. I am providing you with the manufacturer's specifications for the Oblivion Harp and the technical layouts for the Arbiter's Circle. He handed her a data chip. He came himself. Thank you, Adjunct, Tammy said, accepting the chip. Sarn lingered. His graphite face was a polished neutral void. The Arbitration's Arena data link has a maximum upload speed of 2.5 terabytes per second. The verification nodes are at coordinates alpha, beta, and gamma in the schematics. The area's power grid is susceptible to localized surges if you introduce a feedback loop into Relay Junction 8-gamma. He gave her more than the required files. He gave her a tactical briefing. Duly noted, she said. For the record, Sarn continued, his voice a steady monotone. Provost Haxon personally oversaw the procurement and installation of the contested power conduits and the focusing lens assembly. He delivered the statement as a simple fact. Haxon fought to silence the audit and bury his own culpability. Sarn's polyhedral body shifted with a soft ripple of clicks. He turned to leave, then paused. My projections give you a low probability of survival in a direct engagement. A knot of cold dread formed in her gut. I see. However, Sarn added, my models project a significantly improved outcome if you prioritize reaching the verification nodes and use the environment to obscure yourself from the Provost. Thank you, Adjunct Sarn, Tammy said. I appreciate your logistical support. Sarn tilted his head a fraction of a degree. The Manifest's integrity is paramount. A well-run tyrannical empire is preferable to a chaotic one. A voided warranty of our primary strategic asset is an intolerable logistical outcome. He turned and moved away, his clicks receding down the corridor, leaving Tammy alone with a data chip full of blueprints and a chance at survival. The Arbitrator's Circle was a stark circular chamber. The air near the walls warped with the energized containment field's blue light. Gelmar and his court watched from an armored viewing box high above. Tammy stood on the polished floor in a standard-issue IBCI hazard suit. Its fabric had a minor kinetic dampening field, designed for industrial accidents like exploding capacitors. Against a military-grade energy spike, the suit was as useful as synth paper. Provost Haxton stood opposite her, holding a ceremonial energy pike, whose tip hummed, containing power. He wore only his own armored body. An automated announcement echoed through the arena, detailing the terms. Provost Haxton has issued the challenge. Auditor Park has accepted. The champion, Provost Haxton, must destroy the Auditor, Tammy Park, or her compliance tablet. She must reach any two of the 3 designated verification nodes and hold her tablet to them for a full diagnostic scan. The first to achieve their objective wins the arbitration. A harsh buzzer sounded. Haxton advanced, his tread gliding, closing the distance faster than she expected. The energy pike hummed, its tip leaving a distorted trail in the air. Tammy focused on Sarn's data, her only path forward. She backpedaled, pulse hammering in her eyes. The pike's tip seared the air centimeters from her face, the heat scorching her cheek. She dodged, weaving between retractable metal pylons, studding the arena floor. She scanned the arena and located the first node, a glowing panel on the far wall designated Alpha. Haxton saw her look and moved to cut off her path. Tammy feinted left, scrambled right, and dove behind a pylon as the energy pike stabbed through the space where her chest was a moment before. The pylon's metal glowed cherry red. She pushed off the floor, sprinting for the Alpha node with Haxton right behind her. She reached the wall and slammed her tablet against the panel. A chime echoed, and a display screen lit up. Verification, 33% complete. A line of pain seared across her back. She cried out, stumbling. The hazard suit absorbed part of the blow, but the pike still burned through, leaving a smoldering gash. Haxton was on her, his amber sensors bright. He attacked with quick, deadly thrusts, driving her back toward the arena's center. He was too fast to outrun, too powerful to fight. Saren's words echoed in her mind. Use the environment to obscure yourself. She dodged another strike aimed at her head and spotted a maintenance panel near the floor, just below Relay Junction 8 Gamma. This was her only chance. As Haxton lunged, she dropped to one knee, ripped open the panel with her free hand, and slammed her heavy compliance tablet's butt into the primary coupling. A shower of white sparks erupted from the junction over Haxton. The arena lights flickered. The provost recoiled, emitting a screech of static as the surge blinded his optical sensors. This was her only opening. Ignoring the burning gash, Tammy scrambled across the floor toward the beta node on the arena's opposite side. She reached it and slapped the tablet against the glowing panel as Haxton's sensors came back online. Verification 66% complete. A sharp burst of static crackled from Haxton's form. He stopped pretending the duel was ceremonial. His movements became sharp and direct. He crossed the arena in seconds, pike held low. Tammy was cornered, the containment field's humming blue distortion at her heels. The final node, Gamma, was 20 meters away. Haxton advanced, raising the pike for a strike aimed at her tablet. He lunged. As the pike's humming tip closed in, a loud chime echoed through the arbitrator circle. The main screen above flashed with green text. Verification complete. Audit findings confirmed. Warranty void. A second containment field materialized between Tammy and Haxton with a sharp snap hiss. Haxton's pike struck the field and discharged its energy in a brilliant silent flash. From his viewing box, Grand Artificer Gelmar roared. Tammy slid down the wall, clutching her tablet to her chest and drawing ragged, painful breaths. Victory by technicality. That was the only kind she understood. Leaning against her quarter's cool metal wall, Tammy grinned. A dull throb in her back reminded her of the arbitration, but the satisfaction of a job well done outweighed it. She filed her official report. The arbitration was legally binding. The Codex now bound Gelmar to either return the Oblivion harp to the manufacturer or refit it with certified parts, a process taking months and costing a fortune. His invasion was over. She was keying in her departure request when a percussive blast blew open the door. 2 Helian guards stormed in with weapons raised. Behind them, Provost Haxon entered the room, his matte black form still. "Tammy Park," he announced, his voice a synthesized monotone, sharp as cut fiber optics. "By the Grand Artificer's order, you are under arrest for high treason and sabotage." Tammy stared at him. "On what grounds? We concluded the arbitration. I confirmed the audit." "The audit," Haxon said, "was a cover. You used your tablet's connection to the ship's network to initiate a destructive diagnostic on the harp's core systems." He held up his own terminal, displaying rapidly scrolling energy logs. "You caused a critical power surge, damaging the primary graviton tuner and leaving the weapon dangerously unstable. You tried to destroy the celestial theorem from within." The accusation was ludicrous. "That's absurd," Tammy protested, her thoughts racing. "IBCI tablets have multiple hardware and software failsafes. Their design prevents them from inflicting damage." She clutched her own tablet tighter. "Under IBCI Article 11, Section C, my compliance tablet is protected as auditor equipment. The law forbids you from confiscating or even inspecting it." Haxon's amber sensors narrowed. "Your authority ends where the Grand Artificer's begins." He gestured to the guards. "Seize her and take the device." They moved in, their hulking forms blocking the light. Haxon used the device's diagnostic connection to piggyback his own commands, planting false data logs to frame her. He was turning her procedural victory against her. She struggled, but they wrenched the compliance tablet from her grasp and dragged her from the room. The brig held her in a cold, sterile cell walled with glowing energy. Tammy paced inside her transparent prison, her mind cycling through articles and regulations. She argued her case, cited the law, and demanded to speak to Gelmar, but the guards remained impassive, loyal to the provost. Hours passed. Then the cell's energy barrier dissolved with a soft fizzle. Adjunct Sarn stood in the opening. "The cell's atmospheric scrubbers required immediate recalibration," he stated, his synthesized voice flat. "The provost dedicates his full attention to overriding the harp's lockouts on the bridge. Brig security has reverted to automated protocols. I filed a priority work order and the system approved it." Tammy stared at him. "Sarn?" "The falsified data logs Haxon presented contain statistical improbabilities," he continued. "The supposed surge's energy curve misaligns with the operational parameters of an IBCI diagnostic pulse. He fabricated the data." Relief hit Tammy so hard, her knees nearly buckled. "I know! He framed me, but he has my tablet. Proving it requires my tablet." "A new logistical concern takes precedence," Sarn said, tilting his smooth head. "The power surge was real. Provost Haxon caused it. The counterfeit parts he installed have created a critical feedback loop with the ship's primary reactor. The surge damaged the harp's containment systems. It initiated an irreversible hardware protocol, an emergency discharge." A cold dread settled in Tammy. "Emergency discharge? To vent the energy?" "Correct," Sarn confirmed. "The only way to vent the catastrophic energy buildup is to fire it through the Oblivion harp. The system has locked down. The countdown has begun. In less than 2 hours, the harp will fire at its designated target, and the resulting feedback will vaporize this flagship." Haxon's plan snapped into focus. He intended the harp to fail, destroying the ship and Gelmar, leaving him to seize power. The audit just forced his hand. Sarn produced a generic ship's data terminal. "I require definitive proof of the provost's malfeasance to act," The command structure is loyal to his office, but I can grant you root access to the vessel's law maintenance and security logs. You are more proficient at navigating unusual data patterns than I." He handed her the terminal. "You must find the proof we need, expose Haxon, and stop the countdown." Hidden in an automated supply depot, surrounded by crates of single-cell protein bars and spare automation parts, Tammy and Sarn worked. A shipboard chronometer Sarn projected onto a bulkhead glowed a menacing red. Emergency discharge in 1 hour, 59 minutes, 45 seconds. Tammy worked the terminal's interface, tracing command lines with her fingers. She dove into the ship's data core, a digital ocean of raw hex, scrolling through endless strings of maintenance telemetry, power logs, and cargo manifests. Sarn stood beside her, his polyhedral form reconfiguring thoughtfully as he cross-referenced her findings with his logistical archives. "Haxon designed a sophisticated program," Tammy murmured. "It overwrote the primary logs, but it left an energy ghost behind. The raw sensor data. It left the original energy frequency signatures intact." "Frequency signatures," Sarn stated. "Clarify." "Every component has a unique power signature under load," she explained, pulling up 2 pulsing waveforms on the screen. "This one is the signature of a certified military-grade power conduit. And this one, this unstable waveform, is the counterfeit's trace. Haxon's planted log shows the surge originating from my tablet's diagnostic pulse, but the actual frequency pattern from the incident's time frame is a perfect match for a feedback loop from a counterfeit component." "A definitive inconsistency," Sarn clicked. "Sufficient to cast doubt. Proving intent requires more." "We need the trigger," Tammy said, digging deeper. She cross-referenced energy signatures with the ship's internal network traffic. The chronometer's red numerals ticked down. Then a single encrypted command packet appeared, sent from a terminal in the Provost's personal office moments before the surge. A remote trigger. "There," she said. "He triggered the overload himself." Sarn processed the new data. His head segments spun and clicked. "Cross-referencing with my supply manifests." "Confirmed. The ship's orders for the counterfeit parts originated from a shell corporation. Provost Haxon authorized the payment and installation." They had it all. Haxon sold Gelmar substandard knockoffs, planning for the HARP to fail catastrophically. He intended to frame Tammy for the disaster. The emergency discharge was an unexpected complication, but it still served his ultimate goal, the destruction of Gelmar and the Celestial Theorem. The chronometer flashed. "Discharge in 29 minutes, 59 seconds. "It's time," Tammy said, grabbing the terminal. "Let's go terminate the Provost's employment." The Celestial Theorem's bridge was chaotic. Alarms blared with a steady, maddening pulse. Officers shouted conflicting reports. In the center of it all, Grand Artificer Gelmar sat on his throne, his face a mask of disbelief and terror. Provost Haxon stood beside him, his composure fraying, revealing the ambition beneath. Tammy and Sarn strode onto the bridge, their determined pace cutting through the chaos. Everyone turned. "You!" Gelmar bellowed, pointing a shaking talon at Tammy. "The saboteur returns!" "The Grand Artificer has the wrong saboteur," Sarn announced, his synthesized monotone cutting through the noise. "Provost Haxon is—" Tammy held up the terminal, its screen displaying their findings. "The fraudulent shipping manifests for the counterfeit parts, authorized by Haxon. The energy signature analysis proving the surge originated from those parts. And the hidden remote trigger command sent from the Provost's personal terminal." Haxon, exposed, emitted a harsh, scraping laugh. "Ha! Your perfect systems, your regulations. I use them against you, you walking calculators. You were so busy checking receipts, you overlooked the supplier." He turned his amber sensors toward Gelmar. "And you pompous fool, your weapon's grandeur blinded you so completely you overlooked what was under the hood." "Seize him!" Gelmar shrieked, his voice cracking. The Helian guards, understanding now, moved to surround Haxon. The provost spread his arms, offering himself freely. It's irrelevant. The emergency discharge is an irreversible hardware sequence. The system has locked the diagnostics. The surge fused the overrides. The harp will fire, and it will atomize all of you with me. A high-pitched grinding screeched from Gelmar's fully inflated dewlap as the guards dragged the laughing Haxon away. The tyrant's fury drained away, replaced by a raw plea. He turned to Tammy, his imposing posture collapsing. "Fix this, little auditor," he begged, his voice a desperate rasp. "Name your price. A planet? A fleet? Anything. You must save my legacy." Tammy ignored him. Her focus was on the terminal Sarn connected to the harp's mainframe. The countdown clock on the main view screen showed less than 15 minutes remaining. She frantically scanned the system. Haxon was right. The overload burned the command into the hardware. The bridge crew was in disarray. Officers ran diagnostics Tammy knew were dead ends. Bridge technicians shouted suggestions the system rejected. Gelmar curled in his throne, muttering under the epic ballads that would die with him. Tammy's focus narrowed. A hardware command was absolute, beyond software's reach. But a different set of rules, a higher authority, could supersede it. She scoured the IBCI codex on her terminal, cross-referencing it with interstellar treaties and mandates. She searched for legal precedents, jurisdictional overrides, anything that could supersede a weapons-grade hardware protocol. Her search led her back to a familiar violation, Form 818-C, the Interstellar Arts and Culture Mandate. An audacious, absurd idea formed. She pulled up the Oblivion Harp's official IBCI description, a stellar-scale graphitic wave projector designed for planetary deconstruction. Then she pulled up the Arts and Culture Mandate's legal definition of a Class A musical instrument, any device that can produce controlled, tunable, gravitic waves for the purpose of public performance or artistic expression. The definitions were functionally identical, differing only in intent. Tammy turned to Gelmar and Sarn. "We have to accept that it will fire," she announced, cutting through the din. "But we can change what it fires." Sarn's head segments clicked. "Elucidate." "We file an emergency reclassification application," she said. "We legally redefine the Oblivion Harp as a musical instrument right now." Gelmar stared at her. "Oh, what?" "Under the Interstellar Arts and Culture Mandate," Tammy explained, her words coming faster, "a newly licensed instrument's first public activation must be a safe demonstration, a debut, a concert. It's a cultural preservation law, but the loophole works in reverse." Sarn processed her words, his head segments clicking into a new configuration. "The logic is sound," he stated. "The legal framework is valid. The mandate's authority supersedes local hardware states." He turned to his own terminal. "I can digitally notarize and export the required forms directly to the Galactic registry." The chronometer showed less than 5 minutes. "Do it!" Tammy said. "Do it now!" The final minutes were a frantic bureaucratic blur. Tammy and Sarn worked side by side, hastily completing the digital paperwork for Form 27B/6, Application for Change of Use, Armament to Artifice. "It needs a name," Sarn stated. "The field is mandatory." Tammy glanced at the whimpering tyrant on the throne. "Call it the Gelmar Grand Organ." "Acknowledged," Sarn replied. "It requires a selection for its debut performance," Sarn continued. "The piece must be from the Pan-Galactic Public Domain Catalog." "Just pick one!" Tammy urged, watching the seconds tick away. Sarn keyed commands into his console. "Selection made. A universally known children's educational tune. Simple harmonic structure. Low data density. Optimal for a rush upload. The title is Bleep Blorp's Happy Asteroid Hop." They submitted the form with 40 seconds to spare. The notarization seal flashed green. The Galactic Registry pinged back its acceptance. According to interstellar law, the Oblivion Harp was officially a musical instrument. On the bridge, everyone braced for the end. The countdown reached 0. A low resonant hum filled the ship. the Oblivion Harp's vast emitters glowed, pulsating with a soft, resonant light. Deep gravitational pulses emanated from the ship. On the main view screen, the targeted planet remained whole. A soft, shimmering aurora, a celestial light show of shifting alien colors, bathed its upper atmosphere as the harp's gravitational waves rippled through the magnetosphere. The concert began. The vessel's speakers, still linked to the galactic broadcast, crackled to life, translating the gravitic waves into sound. The music was terrible, a discordant, out-of-tune, cacophonous rendition of Bleep Blorp's Happy Asteroid Hop. The cheap counterfeit parts warped the notes into a grating symphony of failure, their crude construction incapable of the fine control required for music. The embarrassing spectacle, the sound of a planet killer playing a children's song badly, broadcast to the entire sector. On the bridge, Gelmar's face froze in an expression of abject horror. This was worse than death. This was a punchline. The final discordant note faded. The harp powered down, its protocol fulfilled. Its catastrophic energy safely vented as a terrible song. The celestial theorem was safe. The planet was safe. In the quiet aftermath, Tammy Park walked up to the defeated Grand Artificer. She held out her new terminal. On its screen was a contract, its text glowing with the IBCI's absolute authority. It bound him, his fleet, and his entire empire to full perpetual compliance with the IBCI Warranty Codex. Defeated by a fine print fanatic and a loophole in interstellar art law, Grand Artificer Gelmar, the would-be conqueror, the galaxy's laughing stock, took the stylus and signed.